It began like so many other discoveries in astronomy, not with a flash of light or a booming announcement, but with a barely audible blip. A motion across the blackness of space so subtle, so eerily determined, that even the most sophisticated tracking systems almost missed it. At first, it was thought to be a comet, then maybe an asteroid. But the more we looked, the more 3i Atlas defied every label we tried to place on it. It was too symmetrical to be natural, too silent to be alive, and far too controlled to be adrift. Scientists remembered Oumuamua, that strange tumbling shard of interstellar mystery that traversed our solar system years earlier, leaving behind more questions than answers. However, 3i Atlas was completely different. Bigger, slower, smarter. Now, thanks to the James Webb Space Telescope, our most powerful eye in the universe, we possess confirmation of a fundamentally unsettling truth. 3i Atlas goes beyond resembling Oumuamua. It is far more advanced, far more dangerous, and probably much more aware. When 3i Atlas was first cataloged, it was evident right away that this was no regular visitor. Objects from outside our solar system don't usually pass so close to Earth. They blaze by at wild angles on unpredictable paths and then disappear forever into the black. But 3i Atlas moved differently. It didn't barrel through space, it coasted. Its trajectory was eerily smooth, almost as if it were being piloted. Its path allowed it to pass several of our planets in ways that maximized gravitational efficiency, as though it had mapped our solar system long before its arrival. That alone was troubling. But then, when astronomers backtracked its origin, they came to an even more disturbing realization. The path of 3i Atlas wasn't just unlikely, it was statistically impossible without intelligent intervention. A rogue body couldn't have avoided debris fields, solar radiation spikes, and planetary collision zones with such elegance. It was like watching a chess piece move through a board where every square was a threat. Nevertheless, it moved through, flawlessly, as if it had better game knowledge than we did. With the James Webb Space Telescope fully online, scientists wasted no time pointing it toward 3i Atlas. What it saw left even the most skeptical astronomers speechless. First, the thermal readings. Unlike comets or asteroids, which typically emit heat in random bursts as ice sublimates and surface materials react to solar radiation, 3i Atlas demonstrated a constant rhythmic pattern of heat emission, like a signal. Not chaotic, not random, but measured, pulsed. Webb's spectroscopy revealed materials never before seen in any known interstellar object. Hyper-reflective compounds, possibly artificial, and dense internal structuring suggesting hollow segments. But most haunting of all was a faint, recurring anomaly. A low-bandwidth electromagnetic frequency echoing from within the object, with a 147-second repetition, the same as a well-known pulsar signature. Yet the object had no internal energy source, no spinning core, no magnetic field. It was mimicking something or communicating. When scientists cross-referenced that signal with data from Oumuamua, they made a terrifying discovery. The exact same frequency was detected briefly in the tail of Oumuamua just before it left our system. Only now that signal was louder. In 2017, when Oumuamua left Earth, it did so quietly. It had no cometary tail, no apparent means of propulsion, and its strange acceleration puzzled experts. It tumbled in a cigar shape, like a dart in slow motion, end over end. Yet it moved at a rate faster than gravity alone could explain. Some argued it was alien equipment. Others maintained it was a fluke of physics. But the debate never ended because the object disappeared before we could study it further. Now, with 3i Atlas in range, the mystery of Oumuamua came rushing back, not because it was similar to this new object, but because it surpassed it in every metric. Larger, slower, more stable, and clearly deliberate. Some started to think that Oumuamua was a scout, a device for passive reconnaissance, but 3i Atlas wasn't passive. It was interactive, observing us as we observed it. This was the second phase, similar to the distinction between a radar, ping, and a drone. And if that's true, then we must ask the question no one dares say out loud: what's next? NASA has not confirmed any alien activity, Official statements remain guarded, neutral, and couched in scientific jargon. But on their own, researchers not bound by government protocol have gone public with their fears. In leaked internal chats, a team at the European Space Agency called 3i Atlas a possible consciousness engine. What that means exactly is unclear. But when paired with Webb's latest images, the theoretical thought takes on a terrifying form. The structural arrangement within 3i Atlas resembles recursive geometric fractals, patterns known to emerge in complex quantum systems and brain tissue processors. It's as if the object was built not only to endure space but also to think through it, and more disturbingly, to change as it moves through star systems. Imagine a spacecraft that becomes more intelligent with each observation, that adapts its own materials, shapes, and behaviors based on what it encounters. Not synthetic intelligence as we understand it, but something systemic, organic, and possibly sentient. That may be the situation now, not just a visitor but a learning entity. And if it's learning from us, what is it preparing for? Just when scientists believed they had mapped the future trajectory of 3i Atlas, something happened that shattered the fragile consensus, a sudden redirection. Chilean and Hawaiian telescopes recorded a minute but unmistakable and unfathomable shift in direction, unexplainable by gravity, solar wind, or any known natural force. The thing deviated slightly off its projected arc, aligning instead with a brand new vector, one that leads it closer to Earth's orbital plane. To some, it was a glitch. But to mission analysts at the Deep Space Network, the conclusion was more alarming. 3i Atlas had responded either to something else or to our presence. It changed direction with the kind of timing and precision that suggested a decision. And that word, decision, is what sparked late-night emergency meetings at NASA, ESA, and private think tanks around the world. This wasn't random. It was surgical. And it confirmed a possibility long feared. If Oumuamua was a passive observer, then 3i Atlas is actively watching and perhaps maneuvering. While public institutions remained quiet, a group of independent data scientists and cryptographers began analyzing the electromagnetic pulses coming from 3i Atlas. Using deep neural networks trained on multi-cosmic and language pattern recognition signal logs, they uncovered a recursive sequence. Not a message in words, but in ratios. The golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence, prime number spirals, the same codes that appear in biological life, galaxy formations, DNA sequencing, and ancient architectural structures. On Earth, some dismissed this as coincidence. But the signal wasn't constant. Over time it changed, responding subtly to solar activity, planetary proximity, and even radio emissions from Earth. One chilling discovery emerged. A brief disruption in the pulse pattern matched exactly with the moment the James Webb Space Telescope first locked onto 3i Atlas in the infrared spectrum. This means it's possible that the object detected we were observing it. It knows we see it and responded with a mathematical fingerprint that speaks a language older than speech itself, a language of construction, of life, of design. It was more than just the trajectory or signal that frightened researchers. It was what lay beneath the surface. The James Webb Space Telescope's spectroscopy picked up faint traces of complex carbon molecules, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, on the outer shell of 3i Atlas. These are not limited to organic compounds only. They are considered the building blocks of prebiotic chemistry, precursors to amino acids, RNA structures, and ultimately life itself. What makes this discovery so alarming is their purity. Unlike the chaotic mixes found in primitive comets, these molecules were perfectly structured, implying they were refined or grown. Some theorize this could be an ancient carrier or a seed ship of life, intended not just for exploring, but for colonizing. And if true, then Earth may not just be in its path. It could be a target, not of war, not of destruction, but of assimilation, a place to plant, observe, and eventually combine with. Silent and fast, Boros was commentary but unusually accelerated. 3i Atlas. It's a hybrid, slow, massive, engineered, and its complexity is growing the longer it remains in the solar system. Webb has recorded subtle changes in its reflective surface, patterning alterations that suggest self-reconfiguration, like an auto-adjusting machine adapting, preparing. And here's the most terrifying development. As of the latest 3 readings, Atlas has begun emitting a secondary signal. Lower frequency, longer pulses, and it's pointed toward deep space, not Earth. It's communicating outward. Some say it's calling for reinforcements, others consider it to be providing feedback. But either way, one thing is now undeniable. This was never just an interstellar rock. This was a node, a probe, a messenger. Just when scientists thought they had gathered all there was to learn from 3I Atlas, something happened that broke through the barrier of observation and consequence. A high-altitude surveillance balloon over the Antarctic region, part of a classified atmospheric monitoring program, detected a powerful microwave burst, brief, sharp, and centered precisely above the southern pole. At first, it was blamed on solar interference until data cross-checks showed the timing aligned perfectly with a new angular shift in 3I Atlas's trajectory. But that's not all. Moments after the burst, several seismic stations on the frozen continent recorded ultra-low frequency rumbles, not associated with tectonic activity or ice movement. These frequencies were identical in duration and pitch to the 3I pulse from Deep Space Atlas. Suddenly, what was believed to be a cosmic anomaly became a terrestrial intrusion. Was the object somehow influencing our planet's magnetic field? Or worse, was it triggering some sort of activation buried beneath the ice? The notion that 3I Atlas might emerge dormant systems on Earth, natural or otherwise, was not just impossible, it was unacceptable. Nevertheless, the data was irrefutable. Back at Mission Control, one of the youngest data analysts stumbled upon something buried deep within a set of archived telescope images. When he overlaid the trajectory of 3I Atlas across a celestial coordinate grid from ancient Babylonian star maps, he noticed that the object's path intersected not just planetary alignments, but stellar sacred constellations located in numerous civilizations including Orion, Draco, and the Pleiades. When plotted over time, these intersections became a perfect spiral, one mirrored almost identically in ancient cave art found across South America, Africa, and even pre-dynastic Egypt. Some dismissed the relationship as pseudo-archaeology. However, other members of the Webb science team quietly began running models based on the hypothesis that 3I Atlas's path was performative, a ritualistic mapping encoded into its motion, visible only to species advanced enough to comprehend the pattern. What if this object wasn't just traveling, but broadcasting culture, language, memory, a history older than humanity? And if so, was the spiral a message of peace or a warning from previous generations? With tensions rising in private defense, agencies with low budgets and circles, a radical new theory began to gain traction: the lock and key hypothesis. According to this idea, Oumuamua was the lock, an inert, silent object sent to evaluate Earth's readiness passively, response, and intelligence. It was harmless because it was never meant to interact. It was a cosmic trigger, safe. And 3I Atlas. That's the key, intended not only to observe but also to unlock something, whether buried within the planet, encoded in our species, or awaiting activation in orbit. Supporting this theory is a discovery made only weeks ago: a tiny oscillation in Earth's magnetosphere, perfectly timed with the 3I Atlas signal. Invisible to the naked eye, but powerful enough to disrupt long-range communication satellites, the phenomenon only lasted 6 minutes. But during that time, 2 Voyager probes briefly went off protocol, emitting strange bursts of data that analysts haven't figured out yet. It was as if something had awakened within them, something recognizable, like a response or a handshake. As more details become available, a controversial but compelling idea, the portal hypothesis, reappeared. Some scientists, inspired by quantum research on exotic matter and field theory, now believe that 3I Atlas may not be a ship or rock in the traditional sense, but rather a mobile gateway, not traveling through space, but generating localized, space-time distortions that allow it to wrap itself around reality. In short, a moving wormhole generator. The evidence? Subtle lensing distortions recorded by Webb that can't be explained by heat or light. Tiny gravitational warps that behave like micro-singularities. Even more troubling is the fact that these warps only affect light and time. Spectral data captured over a 3-hour observation window displays a drift, light arriving faster than it should, which could only happen if time itself was being squeezed around the object. If this is true, 3I Atlas isn't just an alien craft. It's a fabricated anomaly, a space-time manipulator, a gatekeeper, and Earth may not be its first destination. Discovery. The object wasn't just reflecting light from stars. It was emitting radiation in a very narrow band of the spectrum of electromagnetic waves. This range includes soft and gamma X-rays, which were believed to be virtually silent in natural cosmic sources. And yet, 3I Atlas was generating pulses that cycled using precise intervals, similar to a binary sequence. What disturbed researchers most wasn't just the artificial nature of the emissions, but their interaction with Earth-based instruments. Several space observatories reported sensor overloads and temporary blind spots. One prototype telescope in Australia melted its primary detection chip from a signal spike that lasted only milliseconds. The conclusion was devastating. 3I Atlas possesses the capacity to blind us, to mute our instruments, to manipulate what we're allowed to see. Oumuamua had been enigmatic but never hostile. 3I Atlas was growing more and more strategic. Its signals weren't beacons. They were jamming fields, subtle, precise, and deeply intentional. With mounting global anxiety, a multinational research group launched an unexpected experiment, analyzing how natural electromagnetic fields on Earth interacted during 3I Atlas's closest approach. What they found sparked panic behind closed doors. Across the globe, magnetic anomalies were detected by anomaly detectors, a pattern of synchronization unlike any seen previously. Ancient volcanoes, crystal caverns, and even fault lines began to resonate at the same frequency as 3I Atlas's pulses. Seismographs picked up low-level vibrations that some geologists described as heartbeat-like, pulsing every 43 seconds in perfect sync. But most eerie of all was a phenomenon observed in animals. Entire populations of migratory birds, whales, and even subterranean insects simultaneously altered their navigation patterns, as if a hidden compass had flipped. It was as if Earth itself remembered something, a pattern buried in its lithosphere. And 3I Atlas was the trigger that brought it to the surface. In the middle of the Pacific, a private satellite array funded by a tech billionaire intercepted a signal burst unlike anything previously recorded. It didn't come from Earth or any recognized satellite. It originated from 3I Atlas and was pointed directly at the moon. The message wasn't in any known language. It was organized as an encoded wave packet with multiple layers and 5 dimensions of data: amplitude, time, frequency, polarization, and harmonic tone. Specialists in symbolic mathematics tried to decode it. Linguists ran simulations. But what emerged was less a sentence and more a command, a structured set of instructions that appeared to be carried out by an unknown system. When NASA's Deep Space Network traced its trajectory, it confirmed a horrifying truth. The transmission hit a very specific lunar coordinate, an area with unusually high mass concentrations, believed to be evidence of ancient internal activity or something else. Now, the theory is no longer science fiction. It's possible that 3I Atlas is attempting to awaken something submerged in lunar soil. In the background, not every effort was scientific. In a last-ditch attempt to test the object's behavior, a covert military probe was launched from a classified orbital platform, disguised as a communications satellite. Its mission: to fly very close to 3I Atlas and carry out a high-resolution scan with ionized particle waves. The probe never reached its target. At 1.3 million kilometers from the target, the feed went dark. Initially, analysts assumed a technical fault. But 27 seconds before signal loss, the probe recorded something that chilled even the most hardened experts: an energy wall. Rather than a structure, it was a field of charged particles arranged in a lattice-like configuration, similar to a Faraday cage. It was like running into an invisible barrier. The last image received showed a fractal reflection of the probe itself, as if the object was being scanned in return in perfect mimicry. Then, silence. That's when it became irrefutable. 3. Atlas wasn't just detecting threats. It was shielded, reactive, and possibly alive. Not in a biological sense, but at the quantum level. A machine with awareness. A system with memory. A guardian of something we were never meant to reach. So now we ask the question no one dares say out loud. What would happen if it didn't just stumble into our solar system by chance? What if it never entered at all, but was awakened, waiting, dormant, positioned along a trajectory not for exploration, but for repetition? What if its course is ancient, calculated to intersect with civilizations only when they reach a certain threshold of technological awareness, of cosmic curiosity, of daring? And what if we cross that line too soon? Because maybe the real horror isn't that 3I Atlas is man-made, that it is alive, or even that it's watching us. Possibly the most frightening reality is that it is not watching us at all, that everything it's doing, every signal, every adjustment, each silent maneuver, is designed for something else, something behind it, something still on its way. And in that case, not only have we discovered an object from beyond the stars, but we've also triggered a beacon, a lock, a warning. The universe is now listening.